The manager's voice boomed across the restaurant floor. "You're fired. Pack your things, and get out." Emily Carter stood frozen, her hands still gently resting on the small boy's shoulders. The boy she'd just spent 20 minutes calming down. The boy whose meltdown had cleared half the restaurant. The boy who was now looking up at her with tears streaming down his face. If you've ever been punished for doing the right thing, if you've ever lost everything because you refused to look away from someone in pain, then this story is for you. It had started as an ordinary Tuesday afternoon at the Gilded Lily, one of the most upscale restaurants in the city. Emily had been working there for 3 years. She was good at her job, efficient, professional, the kind of server who remembered regular customers' names based on their usual orders. But today, everything changed. The family had arrived around 2 o'clock. A man in a power suit, a woman bedazzled in diamonds, and a boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, who sat rigidly in his chair and refused to make eye contact with anyone. Emily recognized the signs immediately: the rocking, the hand flapping, the way his eyes darted around the room, overwhelmed by stimuli. The boy was autistic, and he was struggling. His parents seemed oblivious. They were deep in conversation with another couple at the table, discussing business deals and vacation homes. The boy's distress was escalating, but no one was paying attention. Then, the kitchen dropped a tray. The crash echoed through the restaurant, and the boy exploded. He screamed, not a tantrum scream, a terror scream, the kind that comes from sensory overload, so intense it feels like the world is ending. He threw himself out of his chair, hands over his ears, his body curling into a ball. On the floor, his mother looked mortified. "Control him," she hissed at her husband. His father grabbed the boy's arm, roughly. "Stop this. You are embarrassing us." But the boy could not stop. He was beyond words, beyond reason. He was drowning in a sea of too much noise, too much light, too many people. And Emily could not just stand there and watch. She moved before she could even think. She knelt down beside the boy, putting herself between him and the crowd of staring diners. "Hey," she said softly, "my name is Emily. Can you hear my voice?" The boy's screaming quieted slightly. His eyes, still wild with panic, found her face. Emily pulled a small fidget toy from her apron pocket. She always carried one. Her younger cousin was autistic. She had learned years ago that these small tools could make a big difference. "Here," she said, pressing it into his hands. "Squeeze this. Focus on this." The boy grabbed the toy. His fingers worked it. Frantically, the screaming stopped. This story is already touching hearts around the world. If it is touching yours, the super thanks button below is a way to support more content like this. Every contribution helps. Bring these stories to life for the next 20 minutes. Emily sat on the restaurant floor with the boy. She did not try to get him up. She did not try to make him normal. She just sat with him, speaking softly, letting him regulate at his own pace. The manager appeared twice, each time. Emily waved him off. Finally, the boy looked up at her. His breathing was steady now. His hands had stopped shaking. "Thank you," he whispered. "No one ever helps me." Emily's heart cracked. "You're welcome, sweetheart. Do you want to go back to your table now?" He shook his head. "I want to stay back with you." Before Emily could respond, a shadow fell over them. "What do you think you are doing?" It was the boy's father. His face was red with anger and embarrassment. "Sir," Emily said calmly, standing up slowly, "your son was having a sensory overload. I was helping him. Calm down." "You were making a scene," the father snapped. "Do you have any idea who I am?" Emily kept her voice steady. "I was doing what was necessary to help a child in distress." The father's eyes narrowed. "I want to speak to your manager now." That was when everything fell apart. The manager, Mr. Harrison, appeared within seconds. He was a small man with a nervous disposition and an overwhelming desire to please wealthy customers. "Sir, what seems to be the problem?" The father gestured at Emily. "This woman ignored my explicit instructions and made a spectacle of my son. I want her fired immediately." Mr. Harrison's face went pale. "Sir, I am sure there has been a misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding. Fire her, or I will make sure this restaurant never sees another customer from my social circle again." Emily watched Mr. Harrison's face cycle through emotions, conflict, fear, and finally, resignation. "You're fired," he said, turning to Emily. "Pack your things and get out." The words hit her like a physical blow. 3 years of perfect service. 3 years of covering shifts and staying late and doing everything right. Gone in an instant because she had helped a child. "Mr. Harrison," Emily started, "the decision is final. Leave now, or I will call security." Emily looked at the boy. He was staring up at her with those big, tear-filled eyes. "I am sorry," she mouthed to him. Then she untied her apron, set it on the nearest table, and walked out of the Gilded Lily for the last time. She made it to the parking lot before the tears came. She leaned against her car, a 15-year-old beat-up Toyota Corolla. That was more rust than metal, and let herself cry. She cried for the job she had lost, for the bills she would not be able to pay, for the unfairness of a world that punished compassion, but mostly she cried for that little boy, the one who had whispered, "No one ever helps me." "Excuse me." Emily wiped her eyes quickly and turned around. A man was standing a few feet away, tall, dark hair, expensive suit. He looked familiar, but Emily could not place him. "I saw what happened in there," the man said. "I saw how you helped her, and that child." Emily shrugged, trying to compose herself. "I just did what anyone would do." "No." The man shook his head. "You did what no one else would do. I was watching. The parents ignored him. The staff ignored him. 30 people in that restaurant looked away. You were the only one who moved." Emily did not know what to say. "It was nothing. I have experience with autism. My cousin, he is. I just knew what to do." The man studied her for a long moment. His eyes were sharp, but not unkind. "My name is Harrison Sinclair," he said, "and I have a proposition for you." Emily's breath caught. Harrison Sinclair. Even she knew that name. Sinclair Enterprises, technology, defense, real estate, one of the most powerful men on the West Coast. "What kind of proposition?" she asked cautiously. Harrison reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. "My son is autistic," he said. "He's 7 years old. His name is Ethan. And he is struggling. We've been through 9 caregivers in 2 years. None of them lasted more than 3 months." Emily took the card and it was heavy, expensive, just like everything else about this Mr. Harrison. "I'm not asking you to be a caregiver," Harrison continued. "I'm asking you to meet my son tomorrow. If you two connect, we can discuss next steps. If not, I'll pay you for your time and never bother you again." Emily stared at the card. This morning she had been a waitress at an upscale restaurant. Now she was unemployed, standing in a parking lot, being offered a job by a billionaire. Life, she thought, has a very strange sense of humor. "Why me?" she asked. "You don't know anything about me." "I know that you put a child's well-being above your job," Harrison said. "I know that you stayed with him for 20 minutes when everyone else wanted him removed. I know that you carry a fidget toy in your apron for situations exactly like this." He paused. "I know that when my son looked at you, something in his face changed. He trusted you. Instantly. My son does not trust anyone instantly. Not even me." Emily felt the weight of his words, the weight of his desperation beneath the polished exterior. "What time tomorrow?" she asked. Harrison's face relaxed slightly. 10 in the morning. The address is on the card. My driver will pick you up if you prefer." Emily shook her head. "I'll drive myself." Harrison nodded. "Then I'll see you tomorrow, Miss Carter." He turned to walk away, then stopped. "And Miss Carter, for what it's worth, I think what you did in there was extraordinary. That boy was lucky to have you, even for 20 minutes. He was gone before Emily could respond. She looked down at the business card in her hands. Then she looked back at the restaurant where she had just lost everything. And somehow, impossibly, she smiled. What would you have done in Emily's position? Would you have risked your job for a stranger's child? Leave your answer in the comments below. The Sinclair mansion was even more impressive than Emily had imagined. She drove through gates that probably cost more than her apartment building, past gardens that looked like they belonged in Better Homes and Gardens magazine, up a driveway that seemed to go on forever. And then she saw the house, if you could call it a house. It was more like a palace, stone and glass and architecture that screamed, old money meets modern innovation. Emily parked her beat-up Toyota Corolla next to a row of luxury cars and suddenly felt very underdressed. She had worn her nicest clothes, a simple blouse, clean pants, comfortable shoes in case she needed to move quickly with a child. But standing here, surrounded by wealth she could not even comprehend, she felt like an imposter. Before she could second-guess herself, the front door opened. A woman in a crisp uniform smiled at her. "Miss Carter, Mr. Sinclair is expecting you. Please follow me." Emily followed the woman through hallways lined with art that probably belonged in museums, through rooms bigger than her entire apartment, past windows that overlooked gardens and fountains and what appeared to be an actual hedge maze. Finally, they reached a door at the end of a quiet hallway. "The family room," the woman said. "Mr. Sinclair and Master Ethan are inside." Emily took a breath. Then she opened the door. The room was large but surprisingly warm, comfortable furniture, soft lighting, shelves lined with books and toys. And in the center of it all, sitting on a massive sectional couch, were Harrison Sinclair and a small boy, Ethan. He was smaller than Emily had expected, thin, pale, dark hair that fell over his forehead in messy waves. He was not looking at Emily. He was focused intently on a tablet in his hands, his fingers swiping across the screen in rapid, repetitive patterns. "Miss Carter," Harrison said, standing. "Thank you for coming." Emily nodded, but her attention was on the boy. "Hi, Ethan," she said softly. The boy did not respond, did not look up, just kept swiping. Harrison's face tightened almost imperceptibly. He doesn't respond well to direct greetings. Most people find it off-putting. Emily shook her head. That's not off-putting. It's communication, just a different kind. She moved slowly into the room, not toward Ethan, just into his peripheral vision. Then she sat down on the floor. Harrison's eyebrows rose. "Miss Carter, there's a perfectly good chair." "I know," Emily said, "but the floor is where the interesting things happen." She pulled out a small notebook from her bag and began drawing. Nothing specific, just shapes, spirals, patterns. For 5 minutes, nothing happened. Then Ethan's finger stopped swiping. Emily kept drawing, kept her eyes on the paper, did not push. Another minute passed. Ethan slid off the couch. He walked over slowly, his movements careful and precise. He stopped about 3 feet away from Emily. She still did not look up, just kept drawing. "What are you drawing?" Ethan asked. His voice was quiet, a bit flat in tone, but clear. "I'm not sure yet," Emily said honestly. "Sometimes I just draw and see what comes out." Ethan moved closer, closer still, until he was standing right beside her, looking down at the paper. "That looks like a galaxy," he said. Emily tilted her head. "You know what? You're right. It does look like a galaxy." "Galaxies are mostly empty space," Ethan said. 99.999% of a galaxy is nothing. But the 0.001% that is something is very important." Emily smiled. "That's a very cool fact." "I know lots of facts," Ethan said. "About space, about numbers, about trains. I would love to hear some of them," Emily said. "If you want to share." Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then he sat down beside her. Close. Closer than Emily expected. "Most people don't want to hear my facts," he said. "They say I talk too much about boring things." Emily felt that familiar crack in her heart. "Well," she said carefully, "I think facts are never boring when they come from someone who loves them. And you clearly love space and numbers and trains." Ethan looked at her for the first time. Really looked. His eyes were dark, serious, old somehow in a way that didn't match his 7 years. "You're different," he said. "Different how?" "You're real," Ethan said. The others pretended to be interested. I could tell they were pretending. "You're not pretending." Emily set down her notebook. "I promise you, Ethan, I'm not pretending. I think your facts are genuinely interesting, and I would be honored to hear as many of them as you want to share." For a long moment, Ethan just stared at her. Then he said, "The solar system is 4.6 billion years old. The sun will die in about 5 billion more years. But we don't have to worry about that, because humans will probably be extinct long before then anyway." Emily laughed. "That's both fascinating and mildly terrifying." Ethan's lips twitched, almost a smile. "I like terrifying facts. They make people uncomfortable, but you didn't get uncomfortable, because facts aren't scary." Emily said, "Facts are just facts. What we do with them is what matters." Ethan nodded slowly. "Like how fire can cook food or burn down houses. The fire isn't good or bad. The use of it is." "Exactly," Emily said. "You're very smart, Ethan." "I know," Ethan said matter-of-factly. "My IQ is 147, but being smart doesn't help with making friends or understanding why people lie, or why some sounds feel like needles in my brain." Emily nodded. "Being smart helps with some things and not others. That's okay, but you don't have to be good at everything." Ethan was quiet again. Then he said, "Will you stay?" Emily glanced at Harrison Sinclair, who was watching the entire exchange, with an expression of barely concealed amazement. "That depends on a lot of things," Emily said honestly. "But I would like to get to know you better, if that's okay with you." "It is okay," Ethan said. He picked up Emily's notebook. "Can I draw too?" "Of course." Ethan took a pen and began drawing, not spirals like Emily, complex geometric patterns, fractals, shapes within shapes within shapes. Emily watched him work, watched his hand move with precision and focus, and she knew, in that moment, that her life had just changed, forever. Harrison walked Emily to her car an hour later. They had talked logistics, salary, hours, expectations. But beneath all the professional details, Emily could see the real conversation happening in Harrison's eyes. "Please," they said, "please be the one who finally helps my son." "I have to ask," Emily said as they reached her car. "What happened to the other caregivers? You said 9 in 2 years. Harrison's jaw tightened. "Various reasons, and some couldn't handle the meltdowns. Some were offended when Ethan didn't respond the way they expected. Some," he paused, "some said things they shouldn't have said. About Ethan, about autism, about what they thought he was capable of." "What kind of things?" Harrison looked away. "One called him a robot. Another said he was manipulating us for attention. A third suggested we institutionalize him because he would never have a normal life anyway." Emily felt her hands clench into fists. "And you fired them?" "I did more than fire them," Harrison said quietly. "I made sure they never worked with vulnerable children again." Emily nodded. "Good." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Harrison said, "Miss Carter, I need you to understand something. Ethan is my entire world. His mother left when he was 2. She said she couldn't handle it. She said she wanted a normal child. Since then, it's just been the 2 of us." His voice cracked slightly. "I would burn this entire empire to the ground if it meant helping him. I would give up every dollar, every building, every piece of power I have. But none of that matters, because money can't fix this. Money can't make him friends. Money can't stop the world from being too loud and too bright and too overwhelming." Emily understood, more than Harrison could know. "Mr. Sinclair," she said, "I can't promise miracles. I'm not a therapist or a specialist. I'm just someone who has learned how to meet people where they are, instead of where I think they should be." She looked at him steadily. "But I can promise you this. I will never call your son a robot. I will never suggest he's broken, or wrong, or less than. I will treat him with the respect and dignity he deserves. And I will do everything in my power to help him navigate a world that wasn't built for him." Harrison's eyes glistened. "When can you start?" Emily smiled. "How about tomorrow?" The first week was about observation. Emily learned Ethan's routines, his preferences, his triggers. She learned that he ate the same breakfast every morning, scrambled eggs with exactly 3 pieces of toast cut into triangles. She learned that he had to walk through doorways 3 times before entering a new room. She learned that sudden noises were like physical pain for him. She also learned what made him light up: space, numbers, trains, patterns, anything that had rules and logic and predictability. And she learned about his meltdowns. They came without warning sometimes. A sensory overload would build and build until Ethan had no choice but to release it, screaming, crying, sometimes hitting himself. It was terrifying to watch. But Emily did not run. She stayed. She learned his signals, the way his hands would start flapping faster, the way his eyes would dart around the room, the way his breathing would change. And slowly, she learned how to help him regulate before the meltdown happened. One day, about 2 weeks in, Emily tried something new. She brought in a weighted blanket, heavy, comforting, the kind that provided deep pressure stimulation. "What is that?" Ethan asked, eyeing it suspiciously. "It's a special blanket," Emily explained. "Some people find that the weight helps them feel calm. Do you want to try it?" Ethan hesitated. "Will it hurt?" "No, sweetheart. It just feels like a hug. But you can take it off any time you want." Ethan considered this. Then, slowly, he crawled under the blanket. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his body relaxed. Tension Emily hadn't even realized he was holding melted away. "Oh," Ethan breathed. "This feels like being held together." Emily's heart swelled. "Does it feel good?" "It feels..." Ethan struggled for words. It feels like the noise in my head gets quieter. From that day on, the weighted blanket became part of Ethan's toolkit. He used it during homework, during movie time, whenever the world got too loud. And Emily added it to the growing list of things that helped. 1 month into her time with the Sinclair family, Emily made a discovery that changed everything. She was organizing Ethan's room when she found a box hidden under his bed. Inside were drawings, hundreds of them. But these were not the geometric patterns Ethan usually drew. These were something else entirely. People. Faces. But not just any faces. Each one was labeled Mom, Dad, Emily, the gardener, Thomas, the housekeeper, Mrs. Chen. Every person Ethan had ever interacted with, captured in remarkable detail. Emily stared at the drawings. She had assumed, like most people, that autistic individuals struggled to read faces and emotions, but these drawings told a different story. Ethan had captured every nuance, the sadness in his father's eyes, the nervousness in the housekeeper's smile, the warmth in Emily's expression. He had not just seen these things, he had understood them. She brought the drawings to Harrison that evening. "I found these in his room," she said. "Did you know he was drawing these?" Harrison stared at the pages, his face cycling through shock, wonder, and finally, grief. "I had no idea," he whispered. "He has never shown me these." Emily pointed to one drawing in particular. It was labeled Dad. In it, Harrison was sitting alone at his desk. His shoulders slumped, his face tired. "He sees more than we realize," Emily said softly. "He understands more than he can express." "These drawings, Mr. Harrison, they are his way of processing the world, of understanding emotions he cannot verbalize." Harrison's hand trembled as he held the drawing of himself. "He drew me sad," he said, "because I am sad. I thought I was hiding it from him." "Children always know," Emily said, "especially children like Ethan. They are tuned into things the rest of us miss." Harrison set down the drawings. "What do we do with this information?" Emily thought carefully. "We honor it. We give him more outlets to express himself. We stop assuming that silence means absence of understanding. And we remember that just because he cannot say "I love you" does not mean he does not feel it." Harrison looked at her. His eyes were wet. "You are remarkable," he said. "Do you know that?" Emily shook her head. "I am just paying attention. Ethan has been telling us who he is this whole time. We just needed to learn to listen in his language." 2 months in, Emily faced her first real test. Harrison had a business trip. 3 days in Tokyo, unavoidable. He had never left Ethan for more than a few hours. The anxiety was obvious. "What if something happens?" Harrison asked, pacing his study. "What if he has a meltdown and I am not here? What if he needs me and I am on the other side of the world?" Emily put her hand on his arm. "He has me. And you will be a phone call away. Video call every morning and every night. We will be okay." Harrison stopped pacing. "You really believe that?" "I know that," Emily said firmly. "Ethan is stronger than you give him credit for. And so are you." The 3 days were challenging. The first night, Ethan did not sleep. He sat in his room, rocking, waiting for a father who was not coming. Emily sat with him. She did not try to fix it. She did not promise that everything was okay. She just existed in his anxiety with him. "I do not like change," Ethan said finally. "Change feels like falling." "I understand," Emily said. "Change is hard for everyone, but sometimes change can lead to good things too." "Like what?" Emily thought. "Like you meeting me. That was a change, right? Your dad hired someone new, and now we are friends." Ethan considered this. "That is true. You are an acceptable change." Emily laughed. "High praise, Ethan. Thank you." By the second day, Ethan had found his rhythm. He still missed his father terribly, but he was coping, using his blanket, drawing his pictures, sharing his facts with Emily. And on the third day, something beautiful happened. Emily was making breakfast when Ethan came downstairs. His hair was messy. His pajamas were inside out, but he was smiling. "I had a dream about space," he said. "I dreamed I was an astronaut and I discovered a new planet and I named it Emily." Emily's heart melted. "You named a planet after me." "It was a good planet," Ethan said seriously. "It had lots of trains and no loud noises, and everyone there understood facts." Emily knelt down so she was at his level. "That sounds like a perfect planet." "It was," Ethan said, "and you were the queen of it." Emily pulled him into a hug, carefully, gently, giving him room to pull away if he needed. He did not pull away. He hugged her back. When Harrison returned that evening, he found them in the living room. Ethan was showing Emily his train set, explaining the different types of locomotives and their historical significance. Emily was listening with genuine interest, asking questions, learning. Harrison watched from the doorway, unseen. His son was smiling, not the small, guarded smiles Harrison was used to. A real smile, the kind that reached his eyes. And in that moment, Harrison Sinclair felt something shift in his chest, something that felt dangerously like hope. 3 months into Emily's time with the Sinclair family, the outside world intruded. Harrison was hosting a charity gala at the mansion, hundreds of guests, live music, photographers everywhere. It was the social event of the season, and Ethan was expected to make an appearance. "Just 15 minutes, Harrison said to Emily beforehand. "Enough to greet some key donors, then he can go back to his room." Emily frowned. "He has never handled crowds well. The noise alone could trigger a meltdown." "I know." Harrison rubbed his temples. "But there are people who have been supporting autism research for years. They want to meet him. I cannot keep him hidden forever." Emily understood the impossible position. Harrison wanted to protect his son, but he also wanted to show the world that autistic children were worth supporting, worth seeing, worth celebrating. "Let me talk to Ethan," she said. "Let him decide." They found Ethan in his room, arranging his train cars in precise patterns. "Hey, buddy," Emily said, sitting on the floor beside him. "Can we talk about something?" Ethan did not look up. "Is it about the party?" Emily blinked. "You know about the party?" "I hear things." Ethan moved a train car exactly 3 millimeters. "People talk like I am not there, but I am always there." Emily felt that familiar ache. "You are right, and I am sorry people do that. It is not okay." Ethan shrugged. "I am used to it." Emily took a breath. "The party tonight. Your dad wants to know if you would like to meet some people. Just for a few minutes, but only if you want to." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. His hands stopped moving. "Will there be loud music?" "Yes." "Lots of people talking?" "Yes." "Bright lights?" "Probably." Ethan considered this. "But you will be there?" "I will be right beside you the whole time," Emily promised. "And if it gets to be too much, we leave. No questions asked." Ethan picked up a train car, examined it closely. "Okay," he said finally, "but I want to wear my noise-canceling headphones, and I want to bring Theodore." Theodore was a small stuffed elephant that Ethan had slept with since he was a baby. "Deal," Emily said. "Headphones and Theodore it is. Mum that night." Ethan walked into the gala holding Emily's hand. He was wearing a small suit that matched his father's. His headphones were around his neck, ready if needed. Theodore was tucked under his arm. The room went quiet as people noticed him. Then came the whispers, the pointing, the stares. Ethan's hand tightened on Emily's. "You are doing great," she murmured. "Just breathe." Harrison Sinclair appeared beside them. "Ethan," he said, "there are some people who would like to say hello. Is that okay?" Ethan glanced at Emily Carter. She nodded encouragingly. "Okay," Ethan said, "but only 3 people. Then I need to leave." Harrison smiled. 3 people. I promise." The first donor was an older woman with kind eyes. She knelt down to Ethan's level. "Hello, Ethan," she said. "I have heard so much about you. Your father says you know everything about trains." Ethan studied her face for a moment. Then, seemingly satisfied with what he saw, he began. "The first steam locomotive was built in 1804 by Richard Trevithick," he said, "but it was too heavy for the tracks, and they broke. The first successful steam locomotive was the Blucher, built by George Stephenson in 1814. The woman listened intently. "That is remarkable," she said. "You have an incredible memory." "I have a memory," Ethan corrected. "Whether it is incredible depends on subjective criteria." Emily bit back a smile. The second donor was a man who seemed less patient. He spoke loudly and stood too close. Ethan's headphones went on immediately. Emily stepped between them. "I am sorry, sir," she said politely. "Ethan is managing his sensory environment. Perhaps you could speak a bit softer." The man looked offended. "I was just being friendly, so I understand. But friendly looks different for different people. For Ethan, friendly means respecting his space and volume preferences." The man sputtered something and walked away. Emily did not care. The third donor was a teenage girl. She was the daughter of some important executive. She looked about 16, awkward and uncomfortable in her formal dress. Ethan stared at her. "You look like you do not want to be here," he observed. The girl laughed, surprised. "Is it that obvious?" "Yes." Ethan's response was matter-of-fact. "Your shoulders are tight. Your smile is fake. And you keep looking at the door." The girl's expression shifted. She crouched down, genuinely interested now. "You are right," she admitted. "I hate these things. Too many people. Too much noise." "Me too," Ethan said. "That is why I have headphones." "I wish I had headphones." Ethan thought about this. Then, slowly, he pulled the headphones off his neck and held them out. "You can borrow these," he said. "I have Theodore. He helps too." The girl stared at the headphones. Then she looked at Ethan with something like wonder. "Thank you," she said softly. "That is really kind." "Kindness is logical," Ethan said. "When people are struggling, helping them reduces overall suffering. It is basic math." The girl smiled, a real smile this time. "I think you might be the smartest person I have met tonight." "I know," Ethan said simply. Emily watched the exchange with tears in her eyes. This was what people missed when they looked at Ethan. They saw the meltdowns, the rigid routines, the difficulty with eye contact. They did not see the empathy, the logic, the pure, unfiltered kindness. The 15 minutes were up. Emily touched Ethan's shoulder. "Time to go, buddy. You did amazing." Ethan nodded. He waved at the teenage girl, who waved back, still wearing his headphones. Then he let Emily lead him out of the ballroom. Harrison caught up with them in the hallway. "Ethan," he said, his voice thick, "I am so proud of you." Ethan tilted his head. "Why? I only talked to 3 people, and I said several facts that made one of them uncomfortable." Harrison knelt down. "Because you tried, because you were brave, because you showed everyone in that room what an amazing person you are." Ethan considered this. "Did I make a good impression? That is what these things are for, right? Making impressions?" "You made the best impression," Harrison said. "Trust me." Ethan nodded. "Good. Can I have ice cream now?" Harrison laughed. You can have all the ice cream you want. As they walked to the kitchen, Harrison fell into step beside Emily. Thank you, he said quietly, for preparing him, for protecting him, for making him feel safe enough to try. Emily shook her head. That was all, Ethan. I just gave him the tools. He did the rest. Harrison looked at her. His eyes held something Emily could not quite identify. You are incredible, he said. Do you know that? Before Emily could respond, Ethan called from ahead. The ice cream is not going to eat itself. That is both a fact and a request. Emily laughed and hurried to catch up, but she felt Harrison's words settle into her heart. Incredible. No one had ever called her that before. 4 months in, Emily finally met Ethan's mother. She arrived unannounced on a Tuesday afternoon, a sleek car, designer clothes, perfectly styled hair. Everything about her screamed money and entitlement. Emily answered the door, and the woman pushed past her without a word. Where is my son? Emily blocked her path. I am sorry, who are you? I am Victoria Sinclair. The woman's eyes were cold. I am Ethan's mother. Now move. Emily did not move. Mr. Sinclair did not mention you were coming. Mr. Sinclair does not get to decide when I see my child. Now get out of my way, or I will have you fired. Emily's chin lifted. I am going to need to call Mr. Sinclair before I let anyone near Ethan. Victoria's face twisted with rage. Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea the power I have? I know exactly who you are, Emily said calmly. You are the woman who walked out on a 2-year-old because he was not normal enough for you. Victoria's hand came up fast, but Emily caught her wrist before it connected. I would not do that, Emily said quietly. I have nothing to lose. You have everything. For a long moment, they stood frozen. Then Harrison's voice came from behind them. Victoria, what are you doing here? Victoria yanked her hand away from Emily. She spun to face Harrison, her expression shifting instantly to wounded innocence. Alexander, I have been trying to reach you for weeks. I want to see my son. Harrison's face was stone. You lost that right when you abandoned him. I did not abandon him. I was overwhelmed. I needed time. 5 years is not time. It is a choice. Victoria's mask slipped. She looked genuinely desperate for a moment. I have changed, she said. I have gotten help. I understand now what I did wrong. Please, Harrison, just let me see him. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. His jaw worked. Finally, he said, 5 minutes, supervised. And if you upset him in any way, you are gone. Victoria nodded quickly. Of course. They found Ethan in his room, drawing. He looked up when they entered. His face showed no recognition. Ethan, Harrison said gently, this is your mother. She wanted to say hello. Ethan stared at Victoria. Hello. Victoria crouched down, tears in her eyes. Ethan, my baby. I've missed you so much. Ethan tilted his head. You're crying, why? Because I love you, as because I'm sorry. Because I want to be part of your life. Again. Ethan considered this. You left when I was 2 years and 4 months old. It's been 5 years, 3 months and 12 days a month, that's 1,930 days, of not being part of my life. Victoria flinched. I know, and I am so sorry. Sorry is a word. Ethan's voice was flat. Words don't mean anything without actions. What actions will you take to demonstrate sincerity? Victoria looked at Harrison Sinclair. Helpless, Harrison said. Nothing. Emily watched from the doorway, ready to intervene, if needed. I want to spend time with you, Victoria said finally. I want to get to know you. I want to be your mother. Again. Ethan's expression did not change. You have never been my mother. A mother is someone who stays. You're a stranger, who shares my genetic material. Victoria's face crumpled. Ethan, Harrison said softly. I'm stating facts, Ethan said. Facts are not mean. They're just true. He turned back to his drawing. I'm done talking now, he said. Please close the door. On your way out. Victoria stood there, tears streaming down her face. Harrison took her arm. That's enough, he said. It's time to go. He led her out. Emily followed, closing Ethan's door gently behind her in the hallway. Victoria turned on Harrison. This is your fault, she hissed. You turned him against me. I did nothing. Harrison's voice was ice. Ethan is honest. Brutally, beautifully honest. He told you exactly what he thinks. You don't get to be angry about that. He's my son. He's a person. A person you abandoned. A person who has spent 5 years wondering why his mother didn't love him enough to stay. You don't get to walk back in and expect him to welcome you with open arms. Victoria's face hardened. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Harrison walked past her. Show yourself out, and don't come back unless you're invited. Victoria stormed away. Emily found Harrison in his study an hour later, staring out the window. How's Ethan? He asked him without turning. Drawing? He seems fine. Emily paused. Are you okay? Harrison was quiet for a long moment. She left because of him, he finally said. Because he wasn't the perfect child she wanted. She looked at our son and saw a burden instead of a gift. I know. How do I protect him from that? Harrison turned to face her. How do I protect him from a mother who will always see him as less than? Emily stepped closer. You're already doing it. You're showing him every day that he is enough, that he is loved, that he matters. It doesn't feel like enough. It is. Emily touched his arm. Trust me, he knows who's real and who's not. And you're the most real person in his life. Harrison looked at her. His eyes were wet. You're real too, he said softly. You've been more of a mother to him in 4 months than Victoria ever was. Emily felt her heart stutter. I'm just his caregiver. You're so much more than that. Harrison's voice was rough to both of us. The air between them shifted, charged. Emily stepped back. I should check on Ethan. She was gone before Harrison could respond, but something had changed, something they could not take back. 6 months after Emily Carter was let go for helping a stranger's child, she stood in a different ballroom at a different gala, but this time she wasn't a waitress. She was Harrison Sinclair's date. The transition from caregiver to something more had happened slowly, then all at once. It started with late-night conversations. After Ethan was asleep, Harrison would find Emily in the kitchen, making tea. And they would talk for hours about their childhoods, their fears, their dreams. Emily learned that Harrison had built his empire from nothing, that his parents had died when he was 17, that he had worked 3 jobs to put himself through college, that beneath the power suits and the wealth, he was just a man trying to do right by his son. And Harrison learned about Emily, about her cousin who had inspired her passion for autism advocacy, about her dreams of becoming a therapist, about the way she saw beauty in differences that others dismissed somewhere along the way. The conversations had shifted, the glances had lingered, the accidental touches had become less accidental, and one night, 3 weeks ago, Harrison had kissed her. They had been standing in the garden, watching fireflies dance in the summer darkness. Ethan was asleep. Upstairs, the world was quiet. "Emily," Harrison had said, "I need to tell you something." She had turned to face him, her heart already racing. "I've fallen in love with you." The words hung in the air like fireflies, themselves bright, beautiful, impossible to ignore. Emily had not responded with words. She had simply stepped forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss had been everything, gentle and fierce, tentative and certain. The kind of kiss that changes everything. That comes after. Now. 3 weeks later, they were here, at the annual Sinclair Foundation Gala, together. Emily was wearing a dress that Harrison had insisted on buying her. Deep blue, simple, elegant. She had protested the expense, but Harrison had silenced her. With a look, "You're worth infinitely more than any dress could cost," he had said. "Let me do this." So she had let him. And now she was standing in a ballroom full of people who had once looked right through her. Journalists, socialites, business titans, all of them staring at the woman on Harrison Sinclair's arm. The whispers were everywhere. "Who is she?" "I heard she was his son's nanny." "A nanny, please, he could have anyone." Emily heard them, but she did not care, because Ethan was there too, standing beside them, wearing his tiny suit and his noise-cancelling headphones, holding Emily's hand with one hand and Theodore with the other. And he was smiling. Not the guarded smiles Emily had first seen. Real smiles, the kind that crinkled his eyes and showed his teeth. "This is better than last time," he observed. "The music is quieter." "I made sure of it," Harrison said. "I told them. No volume above 70 decibels. "That is a reasonable accommodation," Ethan said approvingly. Emily laughed. She could not help it. One of the photographers approached them. "Mr. Sinclair, can we get a photo?" Harrison looked at Ethan. "What do you think, Yas, buddy?" Ethan considered the question. "Seriously, photos are acceptable, but no flash. The flash hurts my eyes." The photographer nodded quickly. "No flash, good time, I promise." They posed together, Harrison, Emily, and Ethan. A family that had formed in the most unlikely way. The camera clicked. The moment was captured, and Emily knew that her life would never be the same. 8 months after Emily was let go, Victoria reappeared. This time, she came with lawyers. She was suing for custody of Ethan. Harrison got the news on a Friday afternoon. Emily was there when the papers arrived. She watched the color drain from his face as he read them. "She says I am an unfit parent," he said. His voice was hollow. "She says that by allowing Ethan's autism to go untreated, I am neglecting him." "That is absurd," Emily said. "Ethan is thriving." "I know." Harrison set down the papers. "But she has money, connections, and she's his biological mother. Courts favor mothers." Emily felt fear claw at her chest. "What do we do?" "We fight." Harrison's jaw set. "I will not let her take my son." The custody battle lasted 4 long months. It was ugly. Victoria's lawyers painted Harrison as a neglectful father, one who let his son's condition worsen by refusing proper treatment. They claimed Ethan needed intensive intervention. Intervention Harrison was denying him. Harrison's lawyers fought back. They brought in experts who testified that Ethan was thriving, that his progress under Emily's care was remarkable. They argued that forcing intensive behavioral interventions could actually cause harm. But the turning point came when someone unexpected took the stand. Ethan, at 8 years old. He was technically too young to testify formally, but the judge allowed him to speak in chambers, with only the judge, the lawyers, and a child advocate present. Emily waited outside with Harrison. The minutes felt like hours. Finally. The door opened. Ethan walked out, his face calm. "I told the truth," he said simply. "That is all." "What truth?" Harrison asked. Ethan looked at his father. "I told them that my mother is a stranger, that you are my family, that Emily makes everything better, and that if they make me live with someone who abandoned me, I will never forgive them." Harrison pulled Ethan into a hug. Emily joined them. They stood there, the three of them, holding on to each other. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The judge ruled in Harrison's favor. Full custody. No visitation rights for Victoria, unless Ethan explicitly requested it. In her ruling, the judge said something Emily would never forget. "This court has rarely seen a child as remarkable as Ethan Sinclair. He is intelligent, perceptive, and deeply loved by his father and his caregiver. The biological mother abandoned this child at a vulnerable age and has shown no evidence of the sustained commitment necessary to repair that damage. This court will not disrupt a stable, loving home in favor of a parent who views her child as a project to be fixed rather than a person to be cherished." Victoria tried to appeal. The appeal was denied. She disappeared from their lives after that. Emily heard later that she had moved to Europe, started a new life with a new husband. "Good riddance," Harrison said when he heard. Emily agreed. 1 year after Emily was fired from the Gilded Lily, Harrison asked her to marry him. He did it in the garden, just like their first kiss. Ethan was there too, holding the ring box. "Will you marry us?" Harrison asked. "Both of us?" Emily laughed through her tears. "That's not how proposals usually work." "Nothing about us is usual," Harrison said, "and I wouldn't have it any other way." Emily looked at Ethan, the boy who had changed her life, the boy who had taught her that different was not less, the boy who now looked up at her with hope in his eyes. "What do you say, Ethan?" she asked. "Do you want me to marry your dad?" Ethan thought about it. "Logically, it makes sense. You already live here. You already take care of me. Marriage is a legal formalization of an existing arrangement." He paused. "Also, I love you. And I do not want you to ever leave." Emily's heart shattered and reformed all at once. "I love you too," she said. "Both of you." She took the ring. "Yes," she said, 1,000 times yes." The wedding was small, intimate, perfect. Ethan was the ring bearer. He walked down the aisle with Theodore in one hand and the rings in the other. He had practiced for weeks, counting his steps, making sure everything was precise. When he reached the altar, he handed Emily the rings and said, "You may now proceed with the legal formalization." The guests laughed. Emily cried. The ceremony was kept short. No long speeches, no overwhelming traditions, just the essentials, crafted specifically for a family that had learned to adapt when the officiant pronounced them husband and wife. Ethan clapped 3 times. "That is the correct number of claps," he explained to the confused guests. "More than 3 is excessive. Less than 3 is insufficient." Emily pulled him into a wedding hug, her boys, her family, her home. 5 years after Emily was fired for helping a stranger's child, she stood on a stage at a national autism conference. She was no longer Emily Carter. She was Dr. Emily Chen Blackwood, PhD in child psychology, founder of the Sinclair Blackwood Foundation for Autism Acceptance, author of 3 books on neurodiversity. And she was about to give the keynote address. In the front row sat Harrison, now 50 but looking better than ever. Beside him was Ethan, now 12 years old, His headphones were around his neck. Theodore, slightly worn but still beloved, was tucked into his backpack. And beside Ethan was his little sister, a 3-year-old named Hope. Brown curls, curious eyes, completely neurotypical but fluent in her brother's language. Emily took a breath and began. 5 years ago, she said, I was fired for helping a child. She let the words settle. I was a waitress at an upscale restaurant. A little boy was having a meltdown. His parents were ashamed and the staff was annoyed. And I did what anyone should do. I helped. She looked at Ethan. I did not know that helping that child would lead me to another, a boy named Ethan, who would teach me more about love, patience, and resilience than any textbook ever could. Ethan gave her a thumbs up, his version of applause. Emily smiled. The world tells us that autism is a tragedy, a burden, something to be cured. But what if we are wrong? What if autism is simply a different way of experiencing the world? What if the tragedy is not autism itself, but a society that refuses to make room for difference? She paused. My son is not broken. He is not less than. He is not a puzzle to be solved. He is a human being with unique gifts and unique challenges, and he deserves a world that celebrates him instead of trying to change him. The applause was thunderous, but Emily barely heard it. She was looking at her family, at Harrison, wiping his eyes, at Ethan, stimming happily because the clapping felt good, at Hope, waving enthusiastically. This was her life now. Not the life she had planned. Not the life she had expected, but the life she was mean to live. After the conference, Ethan found Emily in the hallway. You did good, he said. Your speech had a clear thesis, supporting evidence, and an emotional conclusion. Very effective rhetorical structure. Emily laughed. Thank you, sweetheart. That means a lot. Ethan nodded. Also, a woman wanted me to give you this. He handed her a business card. Emily looked at it. Her breath caught. The Gilded Lily. Fine dining. She turned it over. Written on the back were 2 words. I'm sorry, and a phone number. Emily recognized the handwriting. Mr. Harrison, the manager who had fired her 5 years ago. She stared at the card for a long moment. Then she handed it back to Ethan. Can you throw this away for me? Ethan looked at it. Do you not want to call him? No, Emily smiled. I have everything I need right here. Ethan considered this. That is a logical conclusion. The past is irrelevant to current happiness. Exactly. She took his hand. Now let us go find your dad and your sister. I heard there's an ice cream shop nearby that has 47 flavors. Ethan's eyes lit up. 47 is a prime number. I know, Emily said. That's why I chose it. They walked out of the conference center together. Behind them, the business card sat forgotten in a trash can. Ahead of them, the future stretched out. Bright, uncertain, beautiful. A family formed not by blood, but by choice. A story that started with a firing and ended with forever. What act of kindness changed your life? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if this story moved you, the Super Thanks button is a way to support more stories like this one. Every contribution helps bring these tales of hope and healing to life. The story of Emily and Ethan is proof that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best ones. That getting fired can be the best thing that ever happened. That helping a stranger's child can lead you to your own. Thank you for watching me. Until next time.